parents of a baby who died during labour want maternity staff to face criminal charges.
Jack and Sarah Hawkins' daughter, Harriet, died at Nottingham City Hospital in April 2016. Their story features in a new ITV documentary about alleged failings in maternity care at the NHS Trust, affecting hundreds of families. Yeah. Well, Jack and Sarah, who are both consultants there, are part of a campaign by bereaved families calling for a public inquiry into England's maternity services.
Around 100 people gathered here in West Bridgford to hear the latest on the investigation into maternity failings at both the Queen's Medical Centre and City Hospital.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for coming. I don't really know what to say because my daughter didn't survive routine healthcare.
I'm Sarah Hawkins. I'm a mummy to two beautiful daughters. Harriet should be 7 and Lottie is 4.
Sarah and Jack join us now. I'm going to go to you first, Sarah. You know, when I read this, and I read a lot of cases, I had to stop myself in my tracks. Just help us understand what happened at the beginning. As I understand it, your daughter, Harriet, was stillborn after you'd been in labour for 6 days. And at the end of this, they fobbed you off and said it was nothing but an infection. You knew confidently different.
Yeah, we did. And I think one of the main problems we have is that we were both senior clinicians there at the time of the trust. And when I went in to have Harriet, I thought my birth plan is just to have my healthy baby delivered alive. You know, I believed in the trust we work for. I trusted them. The day after my due date, I started having continuous contractions. They lasted for 6 days. I was always told my contractions weren't close enough to stay at home to have a bath. Made 13 contacts with the hospital. On the final admission, I was brought in and they said, well, we can see the baby's head. The baby's about to come. So they said, we're going to start the water bath up. Then they struggled to get her heartbeat, and then, someone come in and said, I'm sorry, your baby's dead.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, it's breathtaking, Jack, to know what that must have been like for both of you.
Yeah, I mean, we were in their care. They were looking after us and Harriet, and they did such a bad job that, babies... Childbirth is, well, I'm not really an expert on it, but it's a difficult thing. But to have so much care and for them to fail to notice that things were going wrong. So when they told us, I mean, I remember that moment. I remember all of it. But I can't even describe.
It's almost numb, I would imagine, out-of-body moment. And you said, Sarah, then, part of the problem was that you were clinicians at the hospital and had huge faith in them. But that's what everybody wants, don't they? They have faith in the experts. And the fact that you were clinicians would have made it even more disturbing because you would have... People would assume that you would know if something was going wrong or not right. Yeah,
absolutely. And, obstetrics isn't our area.
No.
And I didn't read up on it because I trusted them. And, that's what everyone does. And I think everyone's got that right to be able to have that and be delivered safe care. But I don't think we're getting that at the minute. Well, we're not.
Can I ask you about that? The NHS is, for many people, sacred. You've worked in it. You've dedicated your lives to it. Yeah. You accept, as we all do, human mistakes. But what you want is when there's been a mistake for people to acknowledge, apologise and improve. Instead, what you were met with was lies and cover-up, right?
So, yes, absolutely. We blew the whistle immediately and loudly and to the right people. A death in labour, and in fact the hospital policy, and I believe mostly national policy, was that a death after 37 weeks requires what's called a serious event investigation, something like that. And that is a very precise and prescribed set of rules about investigation. It doesn't happen in the department that the incident happened, for example.
So the standard
Yeah.
didn't happen.
No, and it didn't happen for 159 days.
Wow.
The point of doing this is you make immediate learning. You get immediate learning. So, and within 48 hours, you've set the wheels in motion for this forensic investigation. They did none of that. They invited us to a routine stillbirth appointment at 3 months, presented us with the...
3 months?
Yeah. Presented us... I remember we were whistleblowing all the way through this. They presented us with the investigation that they'd done internally. We had to present to them after that meeting, because they didn't believe us, our phone list to show that we had made these contacts. They just didn't have record of them.
This is all while you're experiencing the most unimaginable trauma. You have to put all of this together.
And I think one of the things was, when I went home, my body had given birth, you know, my breasts were leaking, my hair was falling out, I'd infected episiotomy, and I thought life can't get any worse than this.
Yes.
And actually, it got so much worse. You know, we were sat there as grieving parents and clinicians thinking someone's going to call and say, we completely messed up, and no one did. And they didn't for years.
Did they ever say sorry?
Oh, I mean, eventually, and then it was basically, it felt like a copy and paste.
Up until then, it was, we reiterate our condolences, like they, you know, clipped our dog in the street.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
How many families has this impacted? You blow the whistle, and, of course, because you've got experience, you've got a little bit of power, you're prepared to use your elbows and your professional expertise to confront the NHS. Many people are terrified to do that. But as a result of you and others, it turned out you weren't the only ones. How many people so far are you aware of for whom this has been just the worst experience?
So it's early for maths, but here we go. There are nearly 2,000 families in the Ockenden review into maternity services. To get into the review, and excuse my language is fairly blunt, but you need to have a dead baby, a seriously harmed baby, a dead mum, or a seriously harmed mum. If you don't have those, you don't get in the review. 2,000 over 10 years, divided by 52 weeks of the year, is 4 a week in a hospital that said this doesn't happen, it's only happened to you, to many, many people.
So they said it only happened to you. I have to ask you, did you feel, we use this expression, gaslit? I have to ask you what this does to you as a couple and as a family. What impact does that have on you,
I mean,
on the two of you?
It's just completely horrific. There was no rest, you know, when we were awake, there was no rest from it. When we were asleep, you know, we were having nightmares. I was still dreaming I was pregnant. And we just felt so confused because, you know, these were our friends and our colleagues. And we just knew that if it could happen to us, people who were clinicians, then how many other families was it happening to?
I mean, to be clear about the infection thing, you don't just have an infection, you're ill with an infection. Sarah was well, her LICA, the fluid around the baby, was clear, there's no evidence of infection, and the post-mortem result shows no infection, and yet they demanded that we had an infection.
You know, in circumstances like this, where a family faces a trauma, it often, in my experience, destroys a family. It's impossible to rebuild. I wonder, people need to understand this, that the impact that it had on the two of you as a couple.
Yeah, I mean, we're separated now, and we've kind of kept that close to each other because we feel like NUH would use anything. But, you know, we're still Harriet and Lottie's parents, and we're still a family, and we're still united, and we're still going to get justice.
I must give you, wonderful, I must give you a brief statement. The Chief Executive of Nottingham University Hospitals NHS Trust said, "I'm truly sorry we failed Jack and Sarah Hawkins and baby Harriet in 2016. They made a public commitment last year to engage in an open, honest way with the families involved in the independent maternity reviews, but they have further to go." Presumably, you would say a lot further.
Yeah.
Do you still work with them, by the way, just to clear up? No. I'm not surprised.
Do you want to see them prosecuted?
Yes.
I mean, that's the thing. There is a review underway. Help me with, you know, why that will give you some semblance of completion. Why is that justice?
I think in any other walk of life, if there were 4 babies dying a week because of negligence. That wouldn't be accepted, and I don't see why we have to accept that as families, as mothers in maternity.
It's the same poor care, time after time.
Well, the best of luck to you. And, you know, the other thing is, I know how difficult it is to get legal support here, and that you used your power not just for you, but to help other families. I thank you for, and I know many other people will as well. The documentary Maternity, Broken Trust is on ITV1 and ITVX at 10:20 p.m. on Sunday night. Please have a watch.
And if you have been affected by any of the things we've been discussing, if it's resonated with you, then you can find advice and support at itv.com/helplines. And thank you again so much for putting it so eloquently, despite the horrors that you've been through. Thank you very much indeed.